Good day and welcome to Predators Proclivity, the podcast where we look at data from the season for the NHL Predators and make comments upon it. I'm your host, Preston Proctor. We've got a 5-game homestand starting tonight, and in lieu of doing a podcast for every game, again, for me, doing the 2-game thing for the weekend worked out pretty well, so I'm going to do that again. I'm going to cover the first 2 games in this podcast, which is the games against Anaheim tonight and Vancouver on Thursday. And then we have a back-to-back situation with LA and Dallas over the weekend. Those 2 I'll do together. I normally do the weekend games together, so we're going to be doing that. And then the last game, oh goodness gracious, just get into it and don't even be prepared. Tampa Bay, I was going to guess somebody else. But yeah, then Tampa Bay comes in on Tuesday. The final game of the homestand, that will be the 5th win of this homestand. And so then I'll do that. And then we've got 1 away game on Thursday, and then 2 more here in Nashville, which include Vancouver again. So we're going to meet Vancouver twice here in the next 7 games. Span of, 11 days. We'll play Vancouver twice here in Nashville. So I'm hoping that we have good results. I do that in general, hoping for good results. It hasn't been very good the last 3 games for Nashville. We do have 3 losses. 1 was overtime to Montreal, but again, 3 straight losses. So a better start than last year. 2 and 2, 2 and 2, as opposed to 1-5 at this point last year, losing the first 5. So a better start, and you could see some issues with the team. You can see some of them playing well together. Marchessault being out, I think, has hurt us. Scoring, again, not the Preds are having issues with scoring. Apparently not to the level of the New York Rangers. Just reading a little bit of an article, I guess their homestand started with 3 games with no scoring, and then last night they lost their 4th game at home, but they scored a goal. I think the NHL was saying it was the worst home start in history of the NHL, or pretty close. So whatever troubles the Rangers had last year seem to have rolled over to this year. And we haven't played the Rangers yet. I know Quickie was in goal a couple of nights ago. And that's about it. The only thing I really watch the Rangers for is to see Jonathan Quick in goal, unless they come and play Nashville. And then I'm a little bit more in tune. But that's your New York Ranger update here on the Ranger podcast. As long as I'm diverted, just reminding you you get a 25% off at Quantum Energy Squares. That's quantumsquare.com, 25% off using the promo code PREDSPRO. And if you're not familiar with the product, they are square. They're square energy bars. They have caffeine. So they have caffeine in them, which makes them a little bit different than other energy bars. Maybe I'm not that susceptible to caffeine. I haven't really noticed the caffeine, but then maybe it's just not in enough quantities that I feel like, I've just got a jolt. I'm not an energy drink kind of guy. So, but yeah, I think they're tasty, and they're a nice supplement. So, quantumsquares.com. So let's get into a little quick something I've started doing because I was in training camp. I like to follow the minor leagues. I'm not sure why I'm paying attention to Atlanta because nobody that was I don't believe anybody that was at training camp here with the Predators is actually in Atlanta. Well, that's not true. The goaltenders, right? That's right. Semptom, Miller, and Hyder were here in Nashville for training camp, and they are definitely with Atlanta. But other than that, as far as skaters go, I don't think so. I thought I would see somebody, but I don't. I think there are people that were at the Milwaukee training camp that got sent down to Atlanta as people from Nashville were transferred to Milwaukee. Milwaukee would then send people to Atlanta. I guess they had to have somebody to start their training camp with. Somebody. Okay, so that being said, both teams played over the weekend. Atlanta played both days, Saturday and Sunday. Milwaukee just played on Saturday. It was their home opener. They played the Texas Stars. They won 5-3. The first goal was by Ryder Rolston, Notre Dame alum. He was unassisted. That was in the first period, and that took the game to 1-1. So Texas was winning 1-0. Ryder Rolston got an unassisted goal in the first period, tied the game up. I believe Texas got another goal in the first, but in the second, Matthew Wood, one of my favorites from actually the goal scorer and both of the assists, people that were my favorites from training camp. Matthew Wood got the goal with Ufko and Lucchini as the assists, and that took the game to 2-2. And then I think Texas scored again because the third period was all Milwaukee all day long. Zachary Leroux, I think they say Leroux. Sorry, it's a French word, so I get distracted. Got the goal. He was, I guess he got the Daniel Carr, I think, actually got the first star. But as far as the news went, apparently Zachary getting a goal on 5 shots was noted or notable. Assists were given to Kamel and Schaefer. Joakim Kamel, he was just sent down by the Preds about a week ago. I guess I missed that happened sometime around when I was doing the podcast, so I didn't note that, and now it's been a week, so he's playing with them. Played Saturday. Daniel Carr got the next goal with Ufko and Kamel getting the assists, and then Kyle Marino got the final goal with Leroux and Lucchini getting the assists. So a good night for Lucchini and Ufko, and basically all of the, I guess Leroux got a goal and an assist. So a good night for Milwaukee. They play 2 at San Jose next, Friday and Saturday, going out to San Jose to play the Barracuda, Friday and Saturday. Looks like in the AHL and probably the ECHL. ECHL is the where Atlanta, the league that Atlanta is in. They try to minimize travel, so you don't. I mean, when you go play a team, you tend to play them twice. For instance, Atlanta is going to Florida, and they're not playing the same team twice, but they're playing teams that are close together. They're playing on Thursday and Friday. They're playing the Orlando Solar Bears on Thursday, and then on Friday they play the Florida Everblades, not Glade, Everblades, in Estero, Florida. No idea where that was, never heard of it. West coast of Florida, about halfway down between Tampa and the tip of Florida. I was going to say Key West, but I wasn't sure that was the tip of Florida, so it's on the west coast. But yeah, so that's what Atlanta is doing. And then no new transactions. Nobody called up. The Preds are going with the players they've got, so it looks like they're going to be going. I'm not sure how successful that was, but it looks like they're going to be going with 11 forwards and 7 defensemen. for the time being instead of calling somebody else up, which it's a strategy. For whatever it's worth. So anyhow, that is. Oh no. Looks like they are. What have they got here? They've got. They're not. It doesn't look like they are. It looks like Anaheim is going to be going with 11-7. But who's up here? We got Brady Martin. Brady Martin is back in the lineup, so he is how they're going to fill in for Marcia Schalt, but not on the first line. Not on the first line. So, okay. Well, we kind of got into it pretty quick, but let's move on and talk about the opponents. Okay, so tonight, Tuesday, the Anaheim Ducks, quack, quack, quack. The Anaheim Ducks come to town. The Kings were playing them in the playoffs, went 7 games. At the time, we were having, making a particular meal for the different teams, I don't recommend this. It was good, but they went 7, so we were having duck breast with Anaheim chilies. So every night, the Kings played Anaheim, we had duck breast with Anaheim chilies, and then since it went to 7, I found foie gras. So I never made foie gras before, never made it again. Kind of an expensive way, but they won. So, hey, if the Preds make it and start playing the Ducks in the playoffs, it's going to be duck breast and Anaheim chilies around here. So I did find duck breasts the other day. I guess I'm a little ahead of things as far as the playoffs go. But I'm, optimistic. Okay, the Anaheim Ducks, they are tied for 4th in the division, in the Pacific Division, tied with Edmonton. Edmonton has one more loss than Anaheim, so they're ahead of them. Both teams have 5 points. Anaheim is 2-1. They are very consistent, even-handed. On the road, they're 1-1-1. On the road, that's going to change tonight. There's going to be a 2 somewhere in there. I don't know how they feel about it. I'm expecting it to be in the middle. Tonight's game. Oh, please. Oh, yeah. This talk about Anaheim. Not. I was going that is not what Nashville is doing. The production team, I guess, had their coffee. Tonight's game is the second of a 5-game road trip for Anaheim. They are currently 0-1 on that road trip. They lost in overtime to Chicago. Wow. Maybe things are better in Chicago this year. I guess I'll find out when we play them. I know we will eventually. So Anaheim goes from here. They go up after losing here in Nashville. They go up to Boston, and on Saturday they will play Tampa Bay. And then Tuesday, Florida. So, they get a little Florida trip in for the Anaheim Ducks. This is between Nashville and Anaheim, the first game of 3. They play twice. So this is the first game, the 2 more, and both of those are in the last 5 games. Anaheim will be the last game of the year for Nashville. So, play twice in 5 games. So, so hopefully those games are meaningful, at least for Nashville. Last year, Anaheim did sweep the Preds, which I don't think is necessarily puts them in unique company. But that's last year. Last year they swept. They played in January, lost 5-2, or Anaheim won 5-2 in Anaheim in mid-March in Anaheim. Anaheim won 2-1. And then at the end of March, the Ducks won 4-1 here in Nashville. Last year, Anaheim was 6th in the Pacific. They were the second. No, they weren't. That is a cut and paste error. They were sixth in the Pacific. That is not a cut and paste error, but they were not the second wild card team. Production staff, just as soon as you compliment them, it's like they do one thing right. And then in the draft, they did have 10 picks in the draft, 1 pick in each of the first, third, sixth, and seventh, and then 2 each in the second, fourth, and fifth. So they had 10. They picked 10 people in the draft. That seems like a lot. As far as personnel changes between last year and this year, most of the teams that were either high in points or high in time on ice, all of those are still with the team. Missing from the team is notably John Gibson. They had a trade with Detroit. They picked up goaltender Peter Mrazek, who I think was with Chicago. And Chicago was trying to Mrazek was supposed to be the goaltender that was most likely to get traded at the deadline, and I think he was like the last trade. Or there were other goaltenders going around, and finally, I guess Detroit picked him up, and so now Anaheim has him, which is interesting from a standpoint of how much cap space they're using. They have 3 goaltenders now. One of them is playing in the AHL, but they have almost $13 million in goaltenders. Their starting goaltender, Lucas Dostal, he's 25, and he's getting $6.5 million over each year for 5 years. Peter Mrazek, he's 33, he's getting $4.35 million. And then they've got Ville Husso, who is playing for their AHL affiliate, who's getting paid $2.2. Now, he had, and I think last year was getting paid. Last year was the last year of his contract. He was getting paid $4.75 million for 3 years by Detroit, and so that was last year when he was with. He played 9 games for Detroit and 4 with Anaheim last year, making $4.75 million a year, playing in the AHL, which I think is pretty good. Tried to look it up to see, what the goaltenders make in the AHL. They're not making that. I think the highest paid player I think I saw was some guy who was getting paid $7, almost $8 million a year and playing the AHL. But he was, I guess, going back and forth sort of thing. But that still seems like a lot for a guy primarily playing in the AHL. And still 2.2. I think of all the goaltenders in the Nashville organization, the only one making over $1 million is Saros. So Anunen's not, Chroma, Murray. I'm drawing a blank, but yeah, they all are making under $1 million. So. Anaheim spending a lot of money on goaltenders. I don't have a problem with that. I think it's nice if you've got a good backup, it's good to make sure that they're happy, right? And I've done a lot of jobs in my life, and I've had jobs I didn't like, and I've had jobs that I really liked, and I like the jobs that I like better than the ones I didn't like. But in general, it's always nice to be paid more. I've been paid more. I've been paid less. I prefer more. But hey, anyway. So that is the personnel changes, and kind of just thought it was an interesting segue on the goaltender situation and the impact on cap space. Oddly enough, they are not, with that many in cap space, Anaheim, where is Anaheim on the cap list? They're not at the top. Actually, Vancouver, I guess now with their having to they've got a lot of injuries. And so they've called people up, and I think that's why they suddenly jumped up. They were like 10th on the list, and now they are Vancouver. It is second in the use of cap space with only $28K left. They're using $95 million. Anaheim, near the bottom, $83 million. So they have almost $13 million in cap space available, and boy, a lot of that's going to goaltenders. Now, it did say $1 million of Husso. I hope I'm saying that right. Husso's salary is buried, and I meant to look that up, and so I'm not exactly sure. But still a lot of money for goaltenders, and they are near the bottom. There's only Blue Jackets and Chicago below them as far as using cap space. The Predators look like they're about ninth with cap space left, just under $7 million. So they're in good shape as far as the cap goes. A number of organizations are already over the cap, and Panthers $7.6 million over. Wow. But anyway, the various reasons for that, and I've looked into it in the past, and I don't remember. And frankly, that's more than I'm going to cover, at least right now. So as far as players at Anaheim, back to Anaheim, that's where we started, at least recently. They have two players that are injured. Number 16 center Ryan Strome. He's day-to-day, not expected back until October 31st. Halloween. Welcome back on Halloween. And then number 24 center Jansen Harkins is week-to-week, not expected back until almost Thanksgiving, November 22nd. So they did recall on the 17th, so a couple days ago, they did recall number 74 defenseman Ian Moore. They got two centers injured, so recall a defenseman. Got it. From the San Diego Gulls. San Diego Gulls. So that's enough on Anaheim, don't you think? And then on Thursday, the Vancouver Canucks come to town. They are tied for second in the Pacific Division. Seattle, they're tied with Seattle. Seattle has one less win. Both teams have 8 points. Vancouver is 4-2-0. There are still a number of teams without an overtime loss. I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. Maybe they're the only team. Nope, not yet. On the road, they are 3-1-0, which is pretty good. Thursday's game for them will be the last game in a 5-game road trip. They are currently 3-0 on that road trip, and they had a back-to-back in that road trip. I guess that's something I could look at. Last year I kind of got on this back-to-back kick because, well, the Preds were, just trying to find something. The Preds weren't playing well, and, there were, other things going on, scheduling and whatnot. And I have a little bit of a affinity for schedules. I've mentioned before when I was a grad student, at Georgia Tech in the AI branch, artificial intelligence way back when. There was a guy in the American League of Baseball who was funding us to investigate using artificial intelligence to create a schedule. I think the previous year the Mets had what everybody considered to be the best team in baseball, but their travel schedule was horrendous. And so they wound up not even making the playoffs. But they thought, well, maybe, they could use AI. And so that was the project I was working on, and it was kind of interesting. I still have the documents from that. I always thought, well, maybe I'll go back and take a look someday. And I've never gotten around to it. But anyway, so the travel schedule can be kind of interesting, can be an interesting, how many times can we say interesting? Can be an issue with your team if you're not performing, and maybe early in the season you get back-to-backs, and it could come a problem because you don't have time to adjust. But Vancouver did have a back-to-back Thursday and Friday. They played at Dallas and at Chicago, and they won both. Chicago was a shootout. shootout. And hey, by the way, coming back to town is Lankinen, goaltender for the Preds previously. So they had a back-to-back. They are currently 3-0. They play at Pittsburgh tonight. And so that will be the fourth game. And then they'll wrap things up here in Nashville on this road trip. Go home for 3. Montreal, Edmonton, and then the Rangers. Don't think the Rangers are as bad on the road as they are at home. But, I guess 0-4. Anyway, so that's Vancouver. Last year, Vancouver was 5th in the Pacific Division. They missed the playoffs, and I went back and I checked my playoff matrix, and they were in a playoff spot as of March 7th, and then went like 9-11 at the end of the season to fall out of the playoffs. So they were in as the months went by and I was doing it, they were generally in a spot. Looking like they should make the playoffs, and then they didn't. Last year, they did tie for the most overtime losses with 14. They had 14 overtime losses last year, tied with Calgary for the most. And then as far as this year's goes, they only had 6 picks, only took 6 picks in the draft. They had 1 pick in each of the rounds, except the 4th. Personnel changes. They did lose Pius Suter, who got signed by St. Louis. Forward Pius Suter. Goaltender Arturs Silovs was signed by Pittsburgh. But they added forward Evander Kane from Edmonton. And I think that's, I think he's a good match for Vancouver. Vancouver isn't exactly the most up-and-up team, and Evander Kane's personality will mesh right in with that. The Vancouver diving team. They have, 8 players that are on injured reserve, or 8 players that are injured, which is awful this early in the season. Hate seeing that. A couple of the guys that they're going to miss, Teddy Bludger, Brock Boeser, a couple of forwards, defenseman Guillaume Brisebois, actually 21st. So Bludger and Boeser are expected back today. So they may be in tonight's game, but everybody else is expected to come back later. So Guillaume Brisebois, defenseman, is not expected back. Neither is center Philip Chittle. Boy, as we get the chance to butcher some names here. Defenseman Derek Forbort. Isn't it Forbort? I think I misspelled that. Derek Forbort. Left wing Nils Hoglander. Right wing Jonathan Lekarimaki. And defenseman Jet Wu. So they've got 8 people out. 2 of them could be back. Three defensemen. 3 defensemen and 3 forwards will not be back, and 2 forwards may be back tonight. So, as I mentioned, they are second least in cap space with $28K left, and I think primarily because, I'm sure these guys didn't, but they were 10th. When I was looking at it the other day, they were 10th, and now they've jumped up to second, and I think it's because of all this recalling stuff. They recalled 3 players. They recalled 1 and then sent him back, but they recalled 2 forwards and a defenseman. They recalled, and that was yesterday, number 88 center Nils Amon, number 5 defenseman Tom Willander, and number 14 center Joe Labate, all from the Abbotsford Canucks. Boring. Anyway, so that is your opponent's summary. As for your Nashville Predators, we are now tied for sixth or tied for last, depending on how you want to look at it. We have made a big deal about Winnipeg. Maybe I shouldn't have made this big deal about Winnipeg. But yeah, so now, it's early in the season. But yeah, tied for sixth in the Central with 6 points. They are 2-2-2. St. Louis and Dallas are both 3-2, so they're listed above. And in the home, the Preds have only played twice. They are 1-0-1 here at home. These two games are the first two games of a 5-game homestand. This weekend does have that back-to-back with the Kings and the Stars, and then Tuesday they play the Lightning. As far as personnel changes go, Nicholas Hague is now expected back today. It was the 23rd, and I noted that it has been updated to the 21st, so he could be back today. It doesn't look like he's expected in the lineup, according to Puckpedia, who is not estimating a goaltender yet either. So at least I don't have to question. They wind up right and I'm wrong. I would like it to be the other way around, but when I differ from them, it's not in my favor generally, but I still believe in my logic. But number 81 right wing Jonathan Marchessault has been day-to-day, and he's expected back too, but they're not showing him in the lineup tonight. Like I said, looks like Brady Martin is going to be centering the third line with Svechkov and Yost. And Evangelista moves up to the first line with O'Reilly centering that and Forsberg. And then Haula, Bunting, and Stamkos in the second line, McCarron, Smith, and Weisblatt in the fourth. And then your defensive pairs stay the same: Willsby and Yossi, Skay, Perbix, Stastny, and Barron. And as I mentioned, the Ducks. Well, we're not talking about the Ducks. We're talking about Nashville, right? So, yeah, what do they think of power play units? They don't expect. Doesn't look like they expect Brady to be on one of the power play units. Brady Martin, that is. All right, and so both of those players could be back tonight. That'd be good. Yeah, I tell you, I think what they've got. Willsby playing with Yossi, and I think Willsby had a really good training camp, and I think he's probably played really well. I hadn't noticed necessarily. Well, I did notice the one game where it looked like he wasn't getting back, and that I think he was a little slow recognizing the situation, and so the other team got a goal. But that's going to happen. At least not if he's not consistently doing that. One time is one time. But Hague being back with Yossi would be good. Hague, boy, he's huge. He looked really big. They always look bigger on skates, except for Leroux, who looks Leroux and Daniel Carr. They just short. But hey, they don't play. They're playing for Milwaukee, and we're not doing a Milwaukee update right now. Yeah, so stats. Let's talk about some stats. Again, we don't really have enough games under our belt to start making a lot of predictions or recognizing a lot of things. We can see some bad pieces. I think, as I said, the first goal was the first four games was pretty much indicative of what was going to happen. Here at home, they've only played 2 games, so they got it and they didn't. They won it, they didn't, and they lost. So overall, when they get the first goal, they're 2-0-1, and when they don't, they're 0-2-1. So if they don't get it right now, it's looking like a loss, and if they do get it, most likely a win, but again, we don't really have enough games under our belt to really be looking at trends and looking at the stats from that standpoint. Yeah, just taking a quick look through here. I guess the one thing the correlation was looking. I guess the thing is the Preds aren't winning the first period. It is what I think. I think I noticed the other day. The Preds are 0-2-4 in the first period. They're 3-0-3 in the second and 2-4 in the third. 0-2 in overtime. Yeah, so far this year, overtime has not been good for the Preds. But yeah, they're not winning the first period, and they're tying it, 4 times. I mean, so out of the 6 games, they've only lost it twice, tying it. But then they're winning the second period half the games, and half the games tying it. So they haven't lost the second period yet. And those of you that long-term listeners, one of the things that drove me to doing this podcast was I got so annoyed with the Preds and how they played at home in the second period. I thought, oh my goodness gracious, that's awful. I said, okay, fine. Let's see. Let's do the analysis and figure out if I was right. And I was right. At home, they were worse than on the road, but overall bad in the second period. And so this year, they're not looking as bad right now in the second period. And they're 2-4-0 in the third, so they have won the third period twice. And so that first goal was the other thing that drove me to this. I just didn't believe that the first goal was that important, but it turned out 2 years ago. Last year, go figure, last year everything pointed to a loss. But 2 years ago when they made the playoffs, I think they were 3-1 if they got the first goal. They won the game 3 times as many as they lost it. And then with the opponents got it was only 2-1. So it was it was a pretty decent indicator, and it was a good sign, all that stuff for the Preds 2 years ago. So I'm looking forward to that again. And looking at the difference in goal scoring in the second and third period when the Preds are winning, Preds are tied, Preds are losing. The difference in goal scoring when they enter they enter tied. The Preds are scored 3 goals to the opponent 0. So right now, overall, of course, home and away there's not enough, and tonight there's only 2, but 2 home games of statistics to look at. But overall, when the Preds tie the first period, half the time they've gotten 3 goals in the second period to the opponent's 0. The third period when the Preds are winning, the Preds have scored 4 goals to the opponent's 4. That's a lot of scoring. But no empty net. There's 2 empty nets there when the Preds are losing. And those 2 came in the same game. But so the stats will start to take shape, and there'll be some interesting revelations, and we can talk about that more later. I'm really looking forward to some of that analysis to come forward. I'm really looking forward to something different with regards to when the winning goal is being scored. Again, with 6 games, half the time it's in the third period. 33% of the time it's in overtime. So, we definitely don't have a lot of data to go off of, but I'm really looking forward to getting into that and seeing how that goes. And so we'll be able to get to that later. All right, so let's move on to special teams matchups. And again, most of this is from last year, although I did start looking at the goals for and against for this year, because starting to see, what the teams are going to be doing. Interesting, Anaheim, Vancouver, and Nashville, all 3 were in the bottom in scoring last year. Anaheim was 30th, Nashville was 31st, Vancouver 23rd. Anaheim in the second period, worst in the league in scoring, Nashville 26th and Vancouver 25th. Somehow Vancouver jumped up, scored, to 17th in the first period, but and the Preds were last in scoring in the third period. 26th for Vancouver, and 22nd for Anaheim. So nothing terribly exciting there going on. Interesting. Vancouver scores less goals in the second period. They're last in the league. Last year, they scored 64 in the first, 63 in the second. And as I've said before, scoring in the NHL goes up from the first and second period by 33%, but Anaheim managed to score less goals in the second period. And then 83 in the third to Vancouver's 80. And Nashville managed to score less goals in the third than the second, and barely, somewhere, I could split the difference between the first and second for the third. As far as giving up goals, they were all in the top of the league in giving up goals. None of these teams made the playoffs. The Preds were 6th, Anaheim 11th, and Vancouver 15th. The first period was when Anaheim really liked to give up goals. They were 5th in the league in giving up goals in the first period, giving up 81 to 64 for Vancouver and 69 for Nashville. Vancouver and Nashville in the first period in the bottom half of the league on being scored on in the first period, but they make up for it later. The Preds were 3rd in the league in being scored on in the second and 9th in the league in the third. The third period, not good for any of the teams. Anaheim 5th in the league and being scored on, Vancouver 7th, and Nashville 9th. So that's 102 for Anaheim, 99 for Vancouver, and 95. So definitely, these teams were giving up goals left and right in the third period. And Vancouver and Nashville stingy in the first period. As far as how things go this year, goals against, Nashville is 7th in the league in giving up goals in the first, 31st in the second, and 6th in the third. So they've kind of flipped the script a little bit. Don't like the being 7th in the league in the first or 9th in the third, but being next to last, being scored on in the second period, you got to love. As far as goals for, Anaheim is first period, Vancouver second period. As far as I thought it was kind of interesting. I didn't have the numbers, but I thought as far as being in the top 10 in scoring, Anaheim is in the top 10 in the first period, Vancouver is in the top 10 in the second, and Nashville is in the top 10 in the third. And they don't show up in the other periods, which I thought was notable. And given the increased goal scoring that you got in the third period, you got to love the fact that Nashville is 3rd in scoring in the third period. Of course, they're 6th in being scored on in the third period, which is, I guess that's kind of a negative, probably. Overall this season, goals for Vancouver's 12th, Nashville's 24th, and Anaheim is 27th. So Vancouver's goal scoring this year is better than last, at least it looks like. Nashville and Anaheim. Well, Nashville, I guess, has moved up from 31st to 24th, so that's got to be better, right? And Anaheim from 30th to 27th. So, from that standpoint, early in the season, it looks like they've all somewhat improved, but Vancouver definitely seems to have moved up more. And I think, I think that is. I think that's what we're going to see. I'm really kind of worried about the Vancouver game, even though they have so many players that are injured. They kind of I'm worried more about Vancouver than I am Anaheim. Although I have to say, I must have missed this. I think I did miss this. Other people that are added to the team for Anaheim, and I just skipped by this because I started talking about goaltenders. But Chris Kreider was acquired from the Rangers in a trade, and they got him. They and a pick for an AHL player and a pick. But Chris Kreider is a good player, and then Michael Granlund. They signed him from Dallas, and he was with Nashville for 3 full seasons and 2 partial. from the 2018-2019 season. He got picked up in a trade and then got traded away in 22-23. So he was with the team for quite a while. Good player too. So Anaheim has picked up Chris Kreider and Mikael Granlund. So they have made their team better this past year, but Vancouver stats and everything worry me. And I think the problem might be with Anaheim that their team just isn't quite clicking yet. Kind of like the Preds were last year when they were having trouble trying to figure out what to do with these new players. And I don't think Anaheim has quite figured that out, and I hope they don't figure it out tonight. Vancouver, like I said, was a team that actually worries me a little bit more. I like to rag on Evander Kane. I do think he's a dirty player. My wife really hates him. And I think he will do well with Vancouver, but he is a good player, and you have to account for him. So, I think Vancouver, again, two of their players coming back, I think will definitely benefit them. Vancouver, I'm definitely more worried about than Anaheim, but we play them on Thursday. So as far as penalty situations go, the penalty kill last year, Anaheim not very good. They were 29th in the league, 74%, giving up 64 goals on 248 attempts. And those 248 attempts were fourth in the league. And the 64, wow. They were near the bottom. Vancouver and Nashville in the top. Vancouver was third, 82.6%, 39 goals scored on 224 opportunities. So 6 less than the Preds, but the Preds had 19 more opportunities. The Preds were 7th in the league in penalty kill opportunities. Vancouver 19th, so not taking as many penalties. Vancouver, right there in the middle as far as power play opportunities too, 16th. So right there, smack dab in the middle. Anaheim 19th as far as power play opportunities, and Nashville 13th. So all of that's fairly similar as far as the number of opportunities go on the power play. But penalty kill, Anaheim and Nashville last year, definitely getting more penalties called against them. This year, Nashville is 12th, and Vancouver 18th, Anaheim 19th as far as the effectiveness of their penalty kill. So Nashville still doing well, 83%. They were 81% last year, which was good for 7th. They're 83% so far this year. Vancouver 78%, which is down from last year, and Anaheim 75%, which 4 goals on 16 attempts. So their penalty kill is right where it was last year. Vancouver is 8th in the most penalty kill opportunities so far this year. That is a change. Surprising that they are getting more penalties this year than last year. Hey, Evander Kane, and I don't know that he's the one that got them all, but Nashville 16th so far this year, so looking better. I'd like to see Nashville take less penalties, and so they're got a good start on that. As far as the power play goes, Anaheim was worst in the league last year with 11.8%, so about half of Vancouver. Last in the league, 26 goals scored on 221 opportunities. They were 19th in the league in opportunities, so they not middle of the league, but that was horrendous last year. This year they're 8th, 25%, 5 on 20. So their power play is a little bit better this year than it was last year, at least so far. Vancouver, same number of opportunities this year as Anaheim, 20, but they've only scored 4, which is 15%. Nashville, 27th in the league so far. Their power play not very good so far this year. 2 on 23, which is 8.7%. Last year they were 18th in the league in the power play, so better, 21% last year. So they've got some work to do on the power play, and you just can't give up those opportunities. And I haven't looked at it, but you could potentially go back and say their lack of effectiveness on the power play is the reason why they've lost. Looking at the differential so far, the 2 wins that the Preds have, they do have a special teams differential of +1. In the loss to Montreal and the loss to Utah, they were even. Both teams had 1 special teams goal. And then in the losses to Toronto and Winnipeg, it was -2. The Preds didn't have any special teams goals in either of those. And now, yeah, I guess that's the Winnipeg, the 2 special teams were both empty nets. So I tend to disqualify that because I'm looking at, how they're doing, penalty kill versus power play. And what games were that? And so, so I generally tend to take those out. Winnipeg. That's Winnipeg. No, those weren't empty net goals. My calculation must be off. Oh, no. That it's -2 without the power. Yeah, okay. So already took the empty nets out. So it's still -2. It's just everything else is 0. Actually, interesting. The only difference so far, Columbus, the Preds had 1, everything else is 0. So if you take out empty nets, then things kind of get negated out. Again, 6 games, so you don't really have a whole lot, but you can, if, we take a look at the schedule and the results of the games and say, hey, would a power play goal have made a difference? Well, they lost in overtime 3-2 to Utah. They lost in overtime 3-2 to Montreal. I think probably in both of those games, if the Utah and Montreal had a little bit more effectiveness on the power play. Montreal, the Preds had 2 opportunities to Montreal's 3, and then what was the other? Utah. And against Utah, they had 5 power play opportunities to Utah's 4. They did get 1. But, that overtime loss could have been avoided with the better power play. The 4-1 loss to Winnipeg, maybe. Toronto, maybe. You could take a look at those and say, if they scored a power play goal here or there, that maybe it wouldn't have resulted in such an opportunity. Toronto, they had 2. I guess Toronto, there weren't a lot of penalties called. It looked like both Toronto and Nashville had 2 opportunities on the power play. So maybe that game, not so much. But the Winnipeg game, what happened in Winnipeg? The Preds had 6 power play opportunities. I think they even had a 5-on-3 and didn't score. So I think, that game could have turned out a lot different had Nashville been able to score a power play goal. So I think that's a problem that they've got. Whatever it is what it is. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing on the power play except not scoring, but there you go. I'd say the big problem the Preds have right now with where they're at in the season is because of the power play. Yeah, I think we can say that 23 opportunities, only 2 goals. Now, oddly enough, that puts them 27th in the league, so there are 5 teams worse. But hey, they have 26 teams better, and the Preds were better last year. And I don't know that I can get to this fast enough for this to be special teams. Here we go. Okay, so maybe I can. I hate doing this to where I just start going around, but well, shoot, the Preds started out losing the first 5 games, but they did have their effectiveness was a lot better. They had 6 power play opportunities against Dallas in the first game. They got 2 goals. None against Detroit with 3 opportunities, one goal and 3 opportunities on Seattle, 1 goal and 3 opportunities on Edmonton, 1 goal on 3 opportunities against Detroit, 3 goals and 6 opportunities against Boston. So yeah, I think last year at this point in the season, their power play was doing much better. And so that would make a big difference in where they're at right now. And definitely they need to get that figured out because they need to be more effective on the power play and take advantage, make teams hurt, or if the other team takes a penalty, make them pay for it. I definitely have to do that. All right, so I think that's enough on power plays. All right, here's what I'm gonna here's where I get everything wrong talking about goaltenders, and that's not true. I don't get everything wrong. But I'm probably gonna get some of this wrong, and that's okay because I think my analysis I think my analysis is fine. And who am I looking for? I'm looking for Vancouver real quick to see if they have something on the. They say, oh, interesting. Silovs is going to be in goal for the Penguins against the Canucks, his old team. Oh, that's funny. But they've got Demko. Let me see. What did I say? They've got Demko going against Pittsburgh, and I do too. So hey, we both agree on something, and let's see if their predictions are up for the goaltenders yet for the Preds since they've got that one. They've got Dostal and Saros, and I have Mizrak. Of course. All right. Well, anyway, so the goaltenders. Anaheim has 2 goaltenders in their lineup, Lucas Dostal and Peter Mrazek. Dostal is 1-2-1 so far this season. Mrazek is 1-0-0. Last year, Dostal was 23-23-7. Mizrak split his time between Chicago and Detroit last year, so his record in Detroit couldn't be that great. Overall, he was 12-21-2 last year, 10-19-2 with Chicago, 2-2 with Detroit. And so they haven't played this year. Last year, Dostal did play in the first 2 games against Nashville, and he was 2-0, winning 5-2 in Anaheim and 2-1 in Anaheim. The first game was the second game of the 3-game winning streak for Anaheim. And then the second game, they lost 2 games on either side of beating the Preds. So they weren't necessarily playing their best hockey, but they still managed to beat the Preds. Not unique in that situation last year. In the third game, Gibson was in goal against Nashville, so he was 1-0. That was a 4-1 win for Vancouver in Nashville. And then, so interesting, these 2 games, the second and third games were close upon each other, 3 games between, 3 games after them. So, Anaheim lost the 2 games between those and then lost the game after this one. So they were in a streak where they went 2-5, and the 2 wins were both over Nashville. And again, they're not unique. As far as what did Mrazek do last year, he did play 2 games for Chicago against Nashville. He wound up being 1-1 in those games, losing 2-3 in Chicago, and then winning 6-2 in Chicago. The first game was the third game of a 4-game losing streak for Chicago, part of their 2-7 start to their season last year. And then the second game, which was the third game, the second game for Mirazek, which was the third game between Chicago and Nashville. Chicago had lost the 3 previous and then the 5 after. So they were on a 1-8 stretch, with the one win being over Nashville, and that was Chicago. So, not very good. This was my reasoning. I went back and I said, okay, Gibson, I think, for Anaheim, was supposed to be the starting goaltender, and he was injured at the beginning of the season. He missed a couple of months, played for a while, got injured again. So Gibson was supposed to. So this could be why it's a little bit different. Dostal was supposed to be the backup, got a lot of the starts. Gibson did get 29 starts to 54 for Dostal, but again, because he was injured. So, and Dostal's played 3 in a row. So it feels to me like Anaheim is a situation where they like to play, well, they're paying a lot of money for the goaltenders and they like to play them. And I think that's fine. I think that's great. And that's why I thought Mirazek was going to be in goal. Now, Puckpedia is saying that Dostal is going to be in goal. So again, I'm probably wrong. Guess we don't know until tonight. As for Thursday night's game, we got Vancouver has Thatcher Demko, who's 3-1 this season, 10-8-3 last year, and Kevin Lankinen, who is 1-1 this year. Last year, 25-15-10. Vancouver picked up Lankinen right before the season last year. Demko was injured, and so Lankinen was supposed to be the backup and wound up being the starter. So as far as the games with Nashville and Vancouver last year, Lankinen was in the first 2, went 0-2, a 3-5 loss in Vancouver and an 0-3 loss in Vancouver. The first time that Vancouver and Nashville met, Vancouver was kind of alternating wins and losses, so that wound up being the alternate loss. And then the second time was the start of a 4-game losing streak, so not exemplary performance by Vancouver at this time of the year. Last year, Demko did get in goal in the third game, and that was a win for Vancouver, a 3-1 win here in Nashville. That third game was the end of a 3-game winning streak. I've got Demko as their primary goaltender. Lankinen has played 2 games already. He played Friday versus Chicago in a back-to-back situation. So I see Demko versus Pittsburgh and versus Nashville. I think Demko's going to be the primary starter, and I'm not sure how often Lankinen will play, but I don't expect him to play against Nashville. For Nashville, UC Saros is 2-1-2 this season. Justice Anunen is 0-1-0. Last year's records, I don't remember. Didn't write them down. Yeah, they're there. But I'm not. It's new year, new season. Saros, one thing I'm sure of, Saros and Anunen are not responsible for the power play not scoring. So there you go. I might hug. I can't say that. Those of you long-time listeners know I'm not a Saros fan. He's known for giving up weak goals, and I haven't seen one this season, but I guess just that's why I don't like him. Not that I don't like him, but he's not my favorite goaltender. Prove me wrong. I'd love it. I think everybody has a chance to get better, and we're in a different year. So as far as what we did last year against Anaheim, Saros was in goal for the first 2. Those were both losses. The first was the start of a 6-game losing streak, and the second was the start of a 4-game losing streak. Anunen was in goal in the third one. Again, that was a loss in Nashville. And it was the third. The third game was the last game of a 4-game losing streak, which started with the previous game against Anaheim. Oh boy. So, yeah, that was a 4-game losing streak, 2 of which were against Anaheim. Last year for Vancouver, Saros was in goal against all of them. He was 2-1, winning 5-3 in Vancouver, and then 3-0 in Vancouver, and losing 1-3 in Nashville. The first game stopped a 3-game losing streak, and then they wound up losing the next game. The second game stopped a 3-game losing streak, and then they won the next game, so they actually had a 2-game winning streak at that point. And then the third game was the second game of a 6-game losing streak, which there are too many of those. But that was last season, and we're not doing that. And we've got a back-to-back coming up this weekend, so Anunen's going to get in goal, so Saros will be in goal versus Anaheim and Vancouver. I think that one's pretty easy. People to watch. Oh, my goodness. The list for Anaheim is just too long. It's like, well, I've got to mention this guy and I got to mention that guy. I'm kind of still not sure what to do. They got the 2 new guys, Mikael Granlund, 64, and Chris Kreider, 20. Don't see a lot of, Granlund had 66 assists last year, 66 points. Sorry, not assists, 66 points last year, which is pretty good, be a nice addition to the team. Got to mention number 12, Sam Colangelo, right wing, and number 12 and 13, so 13 is center Nikita Nesterenko, because last year both of them had a shooting percentage of over 20. Now, Nesterenko had 4 goals on 20 shots. Colangelo had 10 goals on 41 shots. So, again, not a lot of shots, but and then went back and said, okay, Colangelo played 40 games with the goals, 32 with the Ducks, and he had a 15% shooting percentage with the goals, 22 goals on 143 shots. Nesterenko had 50 games with the goals at a 13.4% shooting average. So maybe not. Maybe not. But again, it worries me when I see shooting percentages like that. And Colangelo played more games with Anaheim last year, and now it looks like he's with them full-time this year. So who knows how this is all going to work themselves out. Of course, we've got top of the list is number 19, Troy Terry, who was first in assists, first in points, second in goals. And he's the forward that's on the ice the most, 1850, third in shooting. So number 19 you're going to see, and number 19 you're going to pay attention to, Terry. You got number 77, Frank Pietrangelo, right wing, third in points, second in goals, first in shots. So you're going to see him take a lot of shots. Number 16, second in assists, Ryan Strome. And then you got number 23, center Mason McTavish, first in goals, third in assists, so he's second in points. Leo Carlson, third in points. Technically second, I guess third on the team, 19% shooting percentage, which was pretty good. And then, like I think I said, number 2, defenseman Jackson Lacombe's on the ice the most, 22, number 18. So other than that, not really a lot of stats. So, I guess McTavish, Terry. So McTavish at 23, Terry 19, and then Colangelo, if you just want 3, that's 12. So number 12, Colangelo, number 19, Terry, and then 23, McTavish, I guess would be the things to watch. Do they have Nesterenko in the lineup? Nesterenko is not in the line. This is Anaheim, right? Yeah, Anaheim. Terry Granlund are in the third line. Carlson, McTavish is on the first. He centers the first line, but it looks like, don't worry about Nestorenko, it doesn't look like he's supposed to be in the game. So, okay. So we'll just stick with that. 12, 19, and 23. 12, 19, and 23. And, of course, we're all going to be watching Granlund because he's an ex-Pred. Granlund spent last year 52 games with San Jose and then 31 with Dallas, and now he's with Anaheim. So getting a lot of frequent flyer miles there. Whew. As far as players to watch for Vancouver, it's a little easier. They do have two new players, 91 Evander Kane. You're going to see him because he tries to get under people's skin. Have to mention number 44, left wing Kiefer Sherwood, not for anything he did last year, but he leads the team in goals and shooting. Well, leads the team in goals this season with 4, only one with 4, and a 36% shooting percentage. So you got to pay attention to that, right? He's starting off the season pretty good. Number 44, Sherwood. Of course, then first at assist and points is number 43, Quinn Hughes. There are 2 Petterssons on the team, but only number 40, Elias Pettersson. I noted he's third in assists, and he's the forward that spent the most time on the ice last year. Quinn Hughes, first in points by a long shot, 26 lead over second place Brock Boeser. And most time on ice, 25-43. And first in shooting, 192. So Quinn Hughes, you're going to be noticing him regardless. DeBrusk and Boeser are first and second in goals last year, both injured, but supposed to be back. And so if they're back, then they're back. They don't have the lineups yet. I guess I could take a quick look and see if they're supposed to be back tonight for Vancouver, and then that would kind of DeBrusk. I don't see DeBrusk. I don't see Boeser. So DeBrusk will be back. Last year, DeBrusk was first in goals with 28. So yeah, definitely 43 and 44. 43 and 44. Yeah, I think those two, maybe 74. You could almost do it kind of like what I like to do with Nashville. If there's a 4 in the number, of course, I didn't look to see if there are more people with 4 in the number, so don't do that. 43, 74, and 44. 43, 44, 74. That would be the 3 players to watch. As far as your Nashville Predators go, anybody with a 9 or divisible by 9 would be people to watch. And I think I think my comment on the stats for this season are that it's basically the same people as last year. We got Eric Halla. I mean, he's got 4. So we've got 3 players that are leading the team in points, Yossi, Halla, and Marchessault. So Halla, I guess, will be somebody that at one point in time we have to start paying attention to. As far as goals scoring, Halla does have 2. So does Marchessault, O'Reilly, Bunting, Perbix. So the scoring is pretty evenly distributed with the Preds, which is great. Like seeing that. Just need to see a little bit more of it. 28.6% is the highest with Ryan O'Reilly and Halla, the shooting percentage. Both of those at the same thing. They've taken 7 shots and they've got 2 goals. But early in the season, Bunting at 25% and Perbix at 25%. So, yeah, a lot of players for the Preds that that love seeing all these names with all these numbers by them. They just all need to be a little bit higher. So that's no notable stats. Okay, so eventually I'll have to start covering the Preds a little bit closer with regards to the numbers for this season. But I still really kind of need a few more games under the belt before that makes sense. Going long. It was a lot shorter the other day, but it's so much more to talk about with Anaheim. As far as momentum goes, coming into the games, Anaheim is on a 2-game losing streak. They are 2-2-1. They're going with 11 forwards and 7 defensemen. And so they're not in a great state of mind. Similar to Nashville, still having problems scoring. Marchessault injured. Hopefully he's back. Not seeing him in the lineup, projected lineup. So maybe not. Neither was Haig. Could be back today too. Vancouver is 4-2. They're in a 3-game winning streak, and they're playing Pittsburgh tonight. So Vancouver is definitely playing better than of the 3 teams, and so the contest tonight with Anaheim and Nashville should be very competitive. And then come Thursday, hopefully Marchessault is back and the Preds can get back to the better ways that they had when they were clicking a little bit better and Marchessault was in the lineup. So there you go. That is the podcast for today. So the Preds starting a 5-game home stand with the 2 games I covered today. Tonight, Anaheim comes to town. Thursday, Vancouver. Got to be some good games. Hopefully, Preds come away with 2 wins and 4 points. That would be great. Anaheim is going to be a very good matchup tonight. Vancouver is going to require Nashville to play above themselves. So looking forward to that. All right. Thanks for listening. I'm Preston Proctor, and you've been listening to Predators Proclivity.